We are live.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Coach's Corner with Catch a Lift. My name is Tyler Gant and I'm joined by Melissa Luke.
Thanks, Tyler. This week we welcome and sit down with Cal coach Karen Werth, who is also the Assistant Athletic Director of Strength and Conditioning of Olympic Sports at Florida. Karen, welcome to the podcast. Why don't we start the show today by you giving us a little bit of background information about yourself?
Awesome. Thanks, Melissa and Tyler. I'm really happy to be here. Cal is such an important organization to be a part of, and I'm really happy. I knocked down Lynn's door to get in and be a volunteer coach, even though I'm not of military background. I will tell you a little bit about myself. I went to college at University of Florida, and I was a 10-time All-American swimmer. Learned how to do strength training, obviously, before that. And then that took me on a career, which was firefighter, paramedic, SWAT medic, and that was in the city of Miami. So a bit of paramilitary training along the way. This was in the early 90s, so it was still, there was a lot going on down there, and it really helped open my eyes to a lot of things and be a part of a family similar to, you would probably become a part of when you're with the military. And then I stepped away and got back into athletics. I've been a strength coach at the University of Florida for 23 years now. It doesn't seem that long, but time sure flies when you're having fun. And I'm a master strength and conditioning coach through the CSCCA, and I'm also a CSCS certified through the NSCA, USA weightlifting, and I just have trained a lot of very incredible time here at University of Florida.
That's
Sounds
incredible.
like you've been busy for the last 20 years, for sure.
Yeah, Tyler. Yeah, for sure.
So let's start it off with talking about a little bit of adversity, because all three of us being in strength sports and backgrounds and such, there's a whole lot of adversity that comes along with strength training as far as injuries go and mentality and I mean what you have to put your body through sometimes when just in training. So like what's one of the best ways that you could keep your athletes like mentally checked in, mentally engaged and understand the process of where they're at and where they're going?
I think when you're dealing with athletes, each person is different. So really breaking it down into an individual task of goal setting, and then being able to attain those goals or even come close would be a great way to motivate. And let's talk about the long layoff we're having right now. Like this is definitely unprecedented. And so we're going to face new challenges that we don't even know about yet, since we're just now starting to get our athletes back. But I foresee that a lot of them will probably have done quite a bit of work at home, whereas some probably have done nothing. So we're going to have to really gauge and be safe so we can avoid injuries, and really do some good injury risk reduction type activities so they can get on the playing field or whatever they do.
Yeah, and this is a really weird time especially for any athletes that were training for a competition that, like if their competition was postponed, because that's going to change the trajectory of your training cycle a lot. And like that, I feel like that throws a lot. And I know in my head, it throws a lot of a lot of things like red flags up of how am I going to deal with this? I don't know when the competition is going to be now. I don't know how to adjust my training, to extend the cycle out, and it's a really easy way to mess up and work yourself into an injury.
That's a great point, because as coaches, we always we aim for a certain event or postseason or whatever it is for that particular athlete. And now we really can't do that. We only can estimate how to train an athlete,
Yeah, it's
to
guesswork.
peak at the right time.
Right.
But I think instead of like a linear periodization, which we're doing more of an undulating, where it's a little more hectic as far as how to train athlete periodization, but it actually will work better because we really don't have a timeline as far as when their events are going to be happening.
Can you describe an undulating, like, really quick, because a lot, like you said, a lot of people work linear. It's a super popular way to train, because it's simple and it makes sense. Can you just describe undulating a little bit?
Yeah, so instead of just progressing up in percentages like week by week, and then maybe every 3 or 4 weeks you're taking a down week and then you started another stepping stone, it's you may have a week where you're raising up your level, and then the next week you might jump up quite a bit, but then the next week you might go low. We kind of use this method because a lot of times college athletes have very strong stressors in their life due to like social activities, tests, sleep patterns. So we need to be able to give a little more variance into how we train them. And so kind of coming up with like an assessment, a daily assessment of how each athlete feels, we kind of can go from there to see how we design that training program for that week.
Wow.
So it's very, it's not set in stone. So it's very much on the move. That's the best way I could describe it. It's flexibility within the coach. You have to be able to deal with that.
Right.
Very fluid.
So I want to kind of just take one step back off of that, Karen, though. So athletes that are returning to the gym right now, like you said, this has been completely unprecedented, this layoff. Can you kind of talk us through, as a coach, what would be some, particular considerations that you're looking at with these athletes as they are returning to the gym? Because, right, like you said, as we know, it's not just, the stress we're doing in that stress, the other, 22 hours of the day or whatever's going on in your life, so kind of what specific things are you guys looking for or addressing there?
Well, the first thing we're going to do when they get back is we're going to see like where their floor is. So if you have a ceiling here, that's where we want you to compete at. How low is their floor? Is it closer to the ceiling or really super low, which will take us longer to get to the ceiling? So what we've done as coaches is we've sent them programs home, which has included lots of trigger pointing, mobility, activation, injury risk reduction exercises. And we've given them a schedule to follow. Because of the NC2A rules, we can't mandate them to return information to us.
Okay.
But, it's all through education. And, we've all been working with these athletes for a long time, and so they respect our judgment. So hopefully that will get more athletes back to a higher floor level. So it may take us only 4 to 6 weeks instead of 8 to 12 weeks of getting them to that ceiling where they can actually practice at a high level and play at a high level.
Kind of.
So, yeah.
I was going to say, kind of
Go
jumping
ahead,
off that too. I mean, athletes that if they are coming in and you've identified, maybe they are closer to that floor, they weren't able to keep up on that stuff, like you guys maybe would have hoped. How can you help an
Yeah.
athlete reestablish, their training habits and their routine they had before, whether it was COVID or an injury or whatever forced you out of the gym for that period of time?
That's a great question because there are going to be some players that fall into that category, and I think just being around their teammates, getting some positive reinforcement through not just coaches but also their peers will help them get more motivated to get back as fast as they can. Because there's going to be, this has been a lot of hardship for a lot of people.
Right.
And, I know there's been players that have had, family or someone they know that have dealt with COVID. So there's going to be that whole mental aspect of being nervous, like
Right.
being around crowds again. So we really just have to put them at ease. We have a great sports health staff that will help the strength coaches every day and make sure that everything is safe.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I think that you know, we look right now, a lot of our veterans are in, I mean, it's a different situation, but somewhat the same. They're nervous about heading back into the gym, again, depending on where you've been during this, how you've been affected. And so I think, that's something that we all need to look at is kind of that compassion too, as people do go back out into gyms if they choose to do that, or even what their competitive future, looks like. So that's definitely something for us all to take into consideration when we work with athletes. How does mind into that? Like what can to kind of help control that?
Like you guys know, mindset is a powerful thing, and we have certain tools that we can use to help get that to a positive mindset if it's not positive. We do lots of team building activities where it might not even be talking, but it's actual teamwork, like certain tire flips and ropes and things that you have to depend on each other like you would as maybe a veteran would know, like during their training,
Right.
like you just really depend on each other. So we kind of use those type of exercises to help bring together a team in which can help individual mindsets improve.
Do you have any advice or recommendations on what athletes can be doing outside of the gym, in their regular personal life to improve their mindset or put it in a better positive state for competition?
Absolutely. I think a big factor is sleep. Really getting at least 8 hours of sleep, which I know is hard for most people, but sleep is such a huge factor in having a good physical and mental outlook for your next day, as well as nutrition. Really paying attention to what you put in your bodies as it's fuel and not just food. So, I mean, there's so many things that you can help, but that can help their mindset. But just maybe even talking to, somebody like one of your coaches, or getting together as a team, like maybe no coaches and just a group of people that can share information. I think that helps morale and the positive mindset that we need.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
that's definitely true. I know when I was still out in California and we had a pretty tight knit training group at my gym. Uh, the outlook on competing and and the tempo, the intensity in the training session is way higher, way better than, when you're just kind of out on your own. So that definitely makes a lot of sense. I think it plays into it a lot.
Can you,
Yeah.
Karen, for obviously any athlete listening, but maybe specifically to our veterans? Again, a lot of veterans, we're building this community kind of virtually, but real time in their day-to-day life, if they're training at home, you know, health, you don't have training partners, Tyler, you gave a great example working out with. If you don't have that in your life, but you want to go far, what can you kind of do there? There's that old adage, like, you're only as strong as the people you train with, and you don't want to be the strongest one, if it's just you doing it. How do you
Right.
approach that? What do you do?
I think you have to make personal goals. So if there's a certain amount of weight you want to lose or gain, whatever body fat percentage, whatever it is, just hold yourself accountable. And I know that's easier said than done, but if you maybe write it down, and just keep track of where you are, have a good home workout schedule. I know you guys posted a lot of awesome videos on Landing Zone. And I think those are terrific for the amount of time that we've been at home,
Right.
which has been great because we get to be with our families. But at the same time, it's kind of depressing because we're not with our training buddies, or we're not going
absolutely.
to the gym that we always go to, and that's like a mental relief just to get a sweat on with other people and getting out of the house. So it's good and it's bad.
Yeah.
But I think the main thing is set your own personal goals, whatever they are, and do your best until this kind of normalizes.
Yeah. You definitely bring up a good point there too, is that, it's more than just training or, your workout that you're doing. This is also a mental and physical release, that people need. And for a lot of people, it's an escape. And so physically, driving to that gym and that decompression and stuff, and that has obviously been taken from a lot of people. So I think that, that's definitely something for us all to continue and be mindful of and helping each other with. And like you said, the Landing Zone is an absolutely fantastic place for those resources. So we actually, we've got a question. I'm going to kick one out to you right away here, Karen.
Okay, great.
So the
Awesome.
question is, okay. So if an athlete is in a situation where they could either skip eating altogether or they're going to have to eat an unhealthy snack to hold them over, is it better to, forego food during that time or do the unhealthy snack?
I would definitely not say forego food ever, but try not to make that unhealthy choice too often. Limit the unhealthy choices because then eventually it catches up with you, or it doesn't help you reach your goals of whatever you want to do. So I would definitely not skip food because then your metabolism will completely shut down.
I don't think you'll ever get a strength athlete to forego food.
Right.
Not usually, no.
I know I won't. That's hilarious.
So Karen, I want to, you've had an incredible career as obviously both a coach, but also as a strength athlete in multiple sports. Can you talk a little bit how your experience as a competitive athlete at a high level has helped you in your coaching, or even how you rely on it, or how does it fit in for you?
Wow, that's a great question because my whole life has been dictated on everything I've learned as an athlete, because of dealing with pressure. And when you're a collegiate athlete, you deal with pressure all the time. And then when I took that next step of being in the real world as being a firefighter and going on SWAT raids as a medic and just now coaching, like just dealing with pressure from all kind of the ability to handle adversity. Um, it's just it's just helped me so much. But I had to work for it.
Yeah.
Obviously everybody has a certain amount of talent, but you still have to work for that next stage. And I coach a lot like my coaches coached me. So I think whatever your mentors are is you gain their respect, and then you actually are part of them as you grow up, as you grow older. So
And I guess I'd kind of ask,
So
I just want to real quick kind of ask you that too on mentorship. Um, can you just touch real quick on that, how important that has been to you, or how important that should be to a coach kind of starting out? We obviously have a lot of, veteran coaches on our team, and we have a lot of veterans in the program who, are always getting certified or, looking to kind of step out in that field. What is the importance of mentorship for coaches?
that's how we all learn. Like, I didn't know anything about strength and conditioning until I started having mentors as coaches that have been doing this for a long time. And so that's how you learn your trade. And then you get more comfortable and you understand how to deal with people. At first it's just like X's and O's and how am I doing my programs, but now it's like all human, how do I deal with humans and make them feel better about themselves,
Yeah.
and give them what they need, and the X's and O's is secondary.
that's the
And
most
so
difficult part.
yeah,
Oh my
so
gosh,
I
yeah.
think it's that mentorship comes in when that transition happens and you're like, wow, if I didn't have them, then I couldn't be me today. So I think that's huge for athletes too, to have athlete mentors.
Oh, good
And
point. Good point.
uh,
Yes.
you know because you look up, it's like if you're a younger athlete and you have someone that's been doing it for a while, either at your gym or on your team, like they can really guide you, and then you one day will be them in your own way,
Right.
you know, helping others. So I think it's just a huge thing, and for just to help humans, like let's help each other. Let's be good citizens.
Yeah, I think we can all agree, and you know, coaching is so much more than right that X's and O's, and even that program that you're writing down. It's that communication with the athlete, and I mean, you're building a person up, or at least I believe you should always be trying to build them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So, what is your outlook on dynamic versus static stretching for training, injury prevention, or even injury recovery, because you have to move those muscles as well. What's your
Yeah.
opinion on dynamic versus static?
I think you should do 0% of static stretching before training,
Mm-hmm.
because your muscles are not warmed up, and your tendons and ligaments, they need a little bit of heat before you can just go into a static stretch. So we only do dynamic stretching in our warm-ups, but we will do static stretching or PNF stretching at
Yeah,
the end of our workouts. So,
yeah.
which is a little more, you'll get a longer hold on all your stretches, but it's actually good for recovery to work on your flexibility. Some people might not know that, but it's actually a form of recovery. So we do it at the end of our workouts.
Right, right. So we do have a question pertaining to that. So not sure who the question came from, but
Sergeant D
the individual.
asks. Sergeant D.
Okay, for certain D, um, says I had to stretch my mid to low back and hurt my side. So how and when is the key for each training style, which we've kind of answered that. Um, but let's really kind of narrow in on that injury of, like, if you have a low low back injury or an oblique injury, how should you move that? How should you stretch that to work with it to kind of help it heal? Because the lower
Yeah,
back is a very low blood flow area.
yeah. I feel like you should stretch or trigger point. Like, what I mean by trigger point is actually work on like your hip flexors,
Yeah.
your your glute, your piriformis and your glutes. Like, don't just hit the actual area that hurts, but hit other things around there to help give it a little more mobility. Um, if I had a low back pain, stretch my low back, but I'd try to stretch my hips, my hamstrings, my quads, my glutes, and then therefore elongating me and letting some of the pressure come off my back. Because if we stretch and trigger point the front of our bodies, it'll help us actually stand up straighter and not have so much load put on our posterior chain, which is the back side of our body.
Yeah, that's like probably the best way I've heard it put. I've had issues with the piriformis. That was
Yeah.
I got injured pretty good at a competition last year, and jacked up the piriformis and the sacrum, caused sciatica and all that, and that's basically what you just went through was 9 months of my year last year.
Yeah,
Just
I
stretching
believe
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
glute work. It was miserable, but it worked. And I never once, like, I had lower back pain and a lot of that. And I don't think I ever once really touched the lower back as stretching and massage work
Yeah.
go.
Because
So
everybody thinks, well, I have an IT band issue.
yeah.
Let me roll with my foam roller.
Yeah.
Well, if you go directly on it, you're not really helping it. You're just causing more pain. So I think if you hit any muscles or stretch any muscles around where you're injured, will actually help that recover a little bit quicker and better.
Yeah. Increases blood flow to the all
That's
around
right.
area.
That's right.
Loosens up the entire area to let the inflammation flow out and be
No
washed
doubt.
out. So yeah, it's definitely
It's
definitely a big thing.
And the groins, like, let me talk about groins a little bit, because a lot of people strain their groins. Well, they think, well, let me stretch my groin. Well, that's counterproductive, because it's only going to increase the pain and not heal as quickly. So this is something that we teach the athletes. There are certain things that you should stay away from if that part is injured, and let, like, medical professionals handle whatever they need to do, like, because we have athletic trainers and physical therapists. They can do all that stuff. Yeah. But as a strength coach, hit that exact area.
Right.
Go around it. Yeah.
So let's transition into probably the it's going to be the most interesting topic today. Women in strength training, because we've finally have two women strength athletes and trainers on the show. And this is something that I've been interested in hearing about from being in strongman and seeing the real big push and the rise of strong women and the comeuppance of at the Arnold. So how is that different? And being a female strength athlete, how's your mindset have to be different, do you think, than like a male strength athlete?
I feel like they're very similar, but women have this extra fierceness about them.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So once a woman sees differences in her body, like from doing strength training, then they get, like, that just is a vicious cycle of their motivation.
Yeah.
And so not only they're not scared of weights anymore at that point, if they ever were, and they like how it makes them feel inside and out, you know?
It's a lot of adversity for, I think,
yeah.
for female strength athletes. it's crazy, you know. I mean, we had a lot of female strong women, female power lifters in my gym out in California, and
Hmm.
like it was so cool to watch a new girl come in that's never touched anything before,
Hmm.
and then see the like once they hit like a watching like a 40-pound girl or 150-pound girl pull a 300-pound deadlift, and then they realize that they just picked 300 pounds up off the
Yeah.
ground. That like enlightenment of holy shit, I could do that
Yeah. Yeah.
is it's off the charts, you know.
It's awesome to watch. And I mean, I did 3 bodybuilding shows when I finished swimming. I loved lifting weights so much that I got into bodybuilding because it was a good way to set more goals for myself, because you can't just stop doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Totally.
And when I set a goal, like I've got to wear like this small bikini and be on stage in front of hundreds of people, like I worked so hard at it. And so I won my first heavyweight division in the South Florida, and then I won Miss Gainesville in 1998. This is a long time ago. And then I got third in the Mid Florida in the heavyweight, which is a bigger competition. So all natural competitions, but like it's just very addictive.
Mhm.
Like video games are to some people, like going to the gym, getting stronger, being able to see more veins or muscles. Like it's an amazing thing. And it's a healthy thing to a point, as long as you're like eating properly and sleeping and all that. But
Yeah.
I think it's just women in strength and sports are just very fierce in my eyes.
Yeah, it's funny, like as you talked about that, Karen, like that's definitely what I found, into my journey with strength training. And it was kind of interesting for myself because I came to strength sports in kind of a roundabout way. When I started exercising, I was doing it just because I needed to move. And but there came a day when I wanted more and I wanted to pursue my strength. And I would say that's literally when my life changed, when I decided that I want to find that true strength. And it was amazing because like I literally started out, I was using 2, 3, 5, 8-pound dumbbells. But I could see myself getting stronger week by week, adding a little bit of weight, adding reps. And I'm like, I'm doing this thing, that I thought I couldn't do. And it obviously continued to grow for me. But as we all know that are sitting here, there are still a lot of misconceptions about women, strength training, lifting weights. And I want to kind of address that a little bit. So a very common one, that unfortunately a lot of people still think is that as a woman, if you lift heavy, the fear is that you're going to suddenly turn into a man, look like a man, you're going to get big, you're going to get bulky. Can we just put that to rest, Karen, that you can lift heavy as a woman?
Absolutely.
Can you kind of talk to us about that? Because unfortunately it's still prevalent.
Well, no doubt. I mean, it all comes down to our basic genetics, whether we're a male or a female. If you're always going to stay very lean and smaller. If you're a mesomorph, you have the ability to get bigger and stronger, but you'll always be an athletic build. And then the endomorph is more of a softer body that tries really hard but never really gets super cut. So we all come from different genetic capabilities. And we get this question, high elite athletes, like I'm going to get big if I lift weights.
Yeah.
Well, if you do hypertrophy training, which would be like 4 to 5 sets of 10 to 12 reps with fairly heavy weight, yes, you're probably going to add a little muscle size. But if you just lift heavy, like for power, generally you will not get a lot of muscle building, that ability to get much bigger than what you already are.
You're going to build density.
That's right. And we all know, hopefully we all know, that the more muscle mass you have, the more calories you're going to burn. So they would be happy to hear that, because women, we like to eat. We like
Yeah.
to eat. And if I have more muscle mass than I do fat mass, then I will burn that many more calories. So, yes, it is a misconception to a certain point with genetics.
Okay.
And really, how many days a week do you really need to go to the gym? I mean, some people like to go 5 or 6. Some people like 2. I think a good number is 3 to 4 for someone that just wants to see results.
Right.
Yeah, the best training program, or the best I've felt on a training program. I'm not going to say the best training program that I've been on. The best I've felt was a 4-day, 3-off split,
There you
because
go.
it could get you have enough volume in the week to really get work done, and have enough a little bit higher intensity each day, and then you have a longer rest period where you can recover better, in my opinion. The whole 5 to 6, I used to do the 6-7 day a week thing,
Yeah.
and it was great for about a year and a half. And then my
Yeah.
hip felt like I got ran over by a truck. So
Right.
yeah.
So I
But
want
wouldn't it be great if you could just get huge just from lifting weights? Like,
Right. Right.
I've always heard like what you're talking about, Melissa, and it always in the back of my mind, I'm like, that would be fucking awesome
wouldn't
if
it?
that was true. Because
Well,
like,
Yeah.
the joke I tell everybody now, Tyler, I've been trying to get big for 3 years, and Lynn calls
You're
me a
not getting
bird.
there.
So yeah, I've been trying to get big for 3 years. So but so I do want to ask you this, Karen, and this is a little bit of a personal question from me too, because it's something that kind of I'm exploring and dealing with right now. So I'm a competitive strong woman. I have always competed in the lightweight 140 and under class. Obviously, when the COVID happened, my training shifted gears a bit, and I haven't been traveling as much, so I've been able to put on a little more mass, which, like I said, has kind of been the goal the last 3 years. Can you talk about athletes when they're at a point where they're kind of either looking at exploring, maybe moving up into another weight class, or, so that's what I'm kind of looking at this point. Like, at what point do you move up into another weight class to continue to, eat for performance and strength, or, just kind of stay in that lower weight class, cut if you need to? Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, I think if you are seeing a lot more gains in how much you're lifting for your events, if those gains are percentage wise worth the little bit of weight gain, then yes. But if you're not gaining that much in your events, as far as like how quickly you're doing an event, like I know there's different, like what are there, stones, and tell me some of the events that you do.
oh, there's all kinds of
like
shit.
strongman, like 30. There's always like a carry, like a farmer's or a frame carry,
Right.
maybe like a yoke walk. There'll be some type of overhead press of an odd implement. A lot of times stones, anywhere from 5 to 7
Stones,
events
yeah.
at a competition. Yeah.
I think if you're making that many more gains with a little bit of weight gain in your body, then go for the higher weight class. But if you don't see like that big of a percentage of gains, then try to cut
Right.
so you can be at the top of your lower weight class.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes total sense. Thank you. Yes.
It's all an ROI scale.
That's right. That's right.
That's all it is.
Exactly.
How much is this going to pay
Yeah.
me?
That's right.
So,
Is it really worth it?
yeah, because I remember I set a goal like 3 or 4 years ago, that I wanted to compete in heavyweight, and I took about 2 years to work up to a walking weight of like heavyweight, and it just 2 years out, I was like, this just doesn't. It's not. I'm not far enough ahead in the lifts and like my carry times and all that. My athleticism was still there, but like my overheads, my deadlifts and stuff, I didn't get that much out of it. So I was like, no, I'm cutting back. I'm dropping back to middleweight. And,
I mean, might as well be the king at the lower weight class.
Yeah, I mean, and and it's safer. Like
Yeah,
when you
no
come
doubt.
down to it, like when you're talking strongman, you know, if you're going into a competition and you've just broke into the bottom of a weight class and you're a lot of the prescribed weights for the events are like you're 85% or 90%, you probably don't need to go out there and try to do that stuff
Yeah.
for reps because
Right,
it's going to be ugly. Like, you know,
right.
you're either you're going to zero, best case scenario, worst
Yeah,
case scenario, you're going to get really, really hurt. Like,
yeah, yeah,
so yeah, and that's I think that's the best way to put it is what you said. You know,
yeah.
if it's worth the gain, you know,
Right.
of weight
Right.
to you know, if the payoff's there, then definitely move up for
Yeah.
sure. It's just hard to scale that. It's
Yeah.
like so
Right.
hard
There
to
is
scale
no
that.
skill for that.
Yeah,
It's what, yeah.
Yeah.
but
So I know we're starting to get a little bit short here on time, Karen, but I want to throw out another question that unfortunately, you know, we get this from male veterans too, but I think I hear it from you know, a lot more females. You know, they'll tell me, you know, they want to be in the gym, they want to lift weights, but I feel like everyone's looking at me when I'm lifting weights. Could you give some, you know, advice or just, you know, thoughts to people that kind of feel that way in the gym about, especially when they're starting, when they're new to it, you know, it's intimidating.
Yeah.
Can you kind of speak to that?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see that happening and being a real issue with, God, I just not going to go because I don't want to
Yeah.
embarrass myself.
Unfortunately, and that's what ends
Or,
up happening. Yeah, they
yeah,
stop going, or they just
yeah,
will get on the treadmill instead because that feels
yeah,
safer and people aren't looking at
right.
me.
I think maybe try to get someone to go with or meet. I don't know if there are some organizations out there that can help match people up when they go to the gym. Because I think if you're scared to do it by yourself, especially as a female, if you had another female to work out with,
Right.
it would take more of the personal pressure off of you. Um, but I mean, it just goes along with confidence in everyday life. Like if you can work on your self-confidence, then you can go into a gym and go do some dumbbell bench and some pull-ups or lat pull down or whatever, and maybe add a little bit more each day. Like maybe go do 20 minutes of strength training and then do a little cardio, and then the next day maybe 25 minutes, and you know, just build up so you're like getting a little bit where you're not just hanging out with all the weightlifters.
Right.
And you're not like getting embarrassed or feeling embarrassed.
yeah,
So I think maybe just either finding someone to go with or a group of people, or just starting out small so you can build on your own self-confidence of going. But the worst thing you could do is not go because you're nervous about that. We want everyone to feel good about themselves and get stronger, and that's what we're all about is the mental health you get from physical training.
yeah. Another thing that might be a good way to get through that period of you know stage fright, for lack of better terms, finding a small locally owned gym.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, because they're usually they're a little bit more of a tight knit group. They're and most of the time, I'd say like 98% of the time, they're very welcoming, and they pull you in like a family, and they make you feel comfortable, even if you're just starting out. That way, like you're more or less going and hanging out with your friends and training while you're doing that instead of going to like a big box gym
Right. Yeah.
or
Chain.
Golds and feeling like a small fish in a big pond, you know, which those
That's
places are
yeah.
filled with a shitload of toxic individuals anyways,
Yeah.
most of the time, who aren't there to train, and they're just there
Right.
to run their mouth or you know, people watch. So
Yeah.
that
That's a
could be
great point.
a
That's a
way
great
around it
point.
too.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I've been training for what, like, I don't know, 8-10 years, and I still don't even like walking into a new commercial gym.
Yeah.
I'm a 250-pound guy,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty friggin' strong for what I am, and I still don't even like going to a new Golds or going to a LA Fitness or whatever if I'm around one,
Right.
because you just feel
Right.
weird. And I can only imagine what it feels like for females,
Yeah.
especially with a bunch of predatory dudes walking around. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Whew, well, we covered some good information today, guys. This has been great. Let's see if there's any more questions. There were. I don't see any more questions out of the chat box. Okay.
Karen, you've competed in, you said, swimming, bodybuilding. Have you ever done any strict powerlifting or anything like that?
Nope, I've never done any powerlifting meets or Olympic lifting meets.
I don't blame you.
But I've trained it. I mean, I used to be able to bench 225. I mean, I'm almost 54 now. I'm getting up there. I would train with 225 on squats on a regular basis for like sets of 10.
Oof, wow, that's awesome.
So like, I just, I was very strong from swimming, like especially upper body. Like most women are much stronger lower body. Like upper body is like you have to work at it. So I had that going for me, whereas upper body was easier for me personally to get bigger and stronger at because of all the swimming I put in.
Yeah, your lats and everything were already built up. So
that's awesome.
Totally.
And that's what a lot of people write off swimming, which I don't particularly care for it, and that's pretty much because I'm like a rock in water. But
right.
I mean, Eddie Hall was a national level swimmer in the UK, and 20 years later, he's the world's strongest man.
There you go.
World record deadlifter. And it all started from a base of swimming. The conditioning aspect, the strength aspect.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Totally.
And it's also great recovery.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah, we use swimming a lot as recovery for our field athletes. So, because I train soccer and we try to swim like once a week in season just to get off their feet. So it is a great recovery tool for any athlete that's working hard at either strength training or doing a lot of running and stuff like that.
And breathing, it works on that too.
Yeah.
I know it's definitely
hard to breathe.
Swimming's definitely a favorite of a lot of our veterans, the joint friendliness of it and such. A lot do
no
pursue,
doubt.
Yeah, a lot pursue facilities where they do. So yeah, it's definitely, if you have access to a pool or being able to swim, I think we'd all definitely highly encourage that.
Yeah. Once they open back up.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I forget. I forget we're living in June of 2020. Good point.
Yes.
Groundhog Day every day. Okay. Well, we are getting close.
Right.
Sorry, Karen. What you got?
But I think from all this adversity that not only that we normally have as humans right now, like we can build resilience from it. So we're going to learn how to take better care of ourselves, how to everybody around us, and just open our eyes to everybody's different needs and just give each other a pat on the back when we need it, because we were just drifting through and getting our daily lives done. And now I think we'll think about it and have a little more resiliency in our world.
Oh, for sure.
Completely.
And I mean, like this whole COVID situation you could really turn it and make it, like, give it a positive light. Like, this is actually a really good thing for a lot of coaches and a lot of businesses as well that have done the same stuff for 10, 20 years.
Yeah.
It's taken and it's stripped away everything that you're used to operating with and making you and force you to figure out how to continue operating in a different way. So you're just adding tools to the toolbox, essentially.
That's right. That's right.
So you can definitely use it to grow, or you can look at it like the worst thing that's ever happened to you in your life. So
Yeah.
but
Well,
choose the growth mindset.
with
Yes.
with Catch a Lift, we're using it to grow. How about
Yes.
that, Tyler?
that's for sure.
We're going up and onward.
There's always growing pains, but moving
right.
forward.
That's right.
Well, everybody, I think that's going to be it for this week. Ran a little bit longer than normal, but we want to again thank you for tuning in and watching. Thanks, Karen, for all the information and the expertise and knowledge that you provided, and thanks for being a volunteer coach for Catch a Lift. So it was really great having you on the show this week.
I really enjoyed it, and everybody take care and stay safe.
Yes, Karen, thank you so much for coming on today, sharing your time and your message of strength and resilience with us all. I know I gained a ton, well, I do every time I talk to you, so thank you. Veteran
Absolutely.
members, if any of you would like to join Tyler, myself, and Karen here after we stop the live stream, please leave your name in the live chat box, and we'll get you guys on to talk to Karen. And we are going to be back next week again. So we will be joined with Cal veteran and entrepreneur businessman Growth. So we'll welcome him next week, and it's going to be a great show.
It's going to be really good. Hey, big thanks to everybody that's put a whole bunch of work into making this show happen. Thank you, Lynn and Henry, for everything. And huge shout out, big thank you to ID Technologies for their ongoing support for Catch a Lift. Without them, we'd be a little bit slower. We got a lot of big stuff coming in the future. We big end of the year plan to make up for this whole COVID madness, but we will be back stronger and better. Thank you to all the supporters that's tuned in and watch the show week after week. We hope to keep seeing you come back. We'll see you next week.
Keep it real, guys.